know, it's always Spyro for this and Spyro for that, but it's never really, where's my dad? With all this talk of Spyro 4 and the will it happens and the won't it happens, we really need to take a step back and realize we already have Spyro 4. No, not that one. That one didn't happen. There we go. Yeah, there it is. See, A Hero's Tale is interesting. It's a major part of Spyro's history, but it's so tucked away from the rest of the series that it may as well have its own witness protection program. Well, then again, there's not much to the series to begin with. With how much Spyro was just passed around between publisher and developer, it makes sense that the number of titles started to dwindle more and more. A Hero's Tale came out at a very unfortunate time in Spyro's timeline. The series was already out of Insomniac's hands, and the last main game dropped faith in the series faster than Mr. B. The game was developed by Eurocom, and you should be familiar with their expansive library of games, like Rio. Out of their vast library of games, this is the one that feels like it had the most love and personality poured into it. It's a very different kind of Spyro game, all the way down to how it looks. Everything's a lot more rounded and smooth, and the characters have been updated to fit this nice and soft art style. And yes, that does include Moneybags. I love his stupid new voice. It's so fun.
Well, I am not a fan of new money, but it is money after all.
There you are, my favorite wallet. Tell you what, Spyro, I have special deal going on. If you give me 20,000 gems, I'll release most of your family. You'll have to find me at my other store to release the other. But this is a limited time offer, so hurry. Isn't I have limited time to offer them freedom?
What? You can tell, there was a lot of creativity being thrown around. There's a lot of fun ideas here. One big change compared to traditional Spyro is that there aren't really any normal portals anymore that lead to other levels. Now, every homeworld is connected in some way. So you'll be exploring these areas and maybe end up in a new area without even realizing it. I genuinely just like exploring these worlds. Everything about them is just so charming and bright. And the whole cast got new voices to fit this quirky little world. And I really like them. I think this game's Spyro is my favorite voice. I'd say it fits him like a bit more than the original. The new voice change really does emphasize Spyro's personality more. I'd argue that he's the most expressive in this game. The quick and fluid animations matched with the overly cartoony voices, it just overall fits Spyro extremely well. And I think if we were given a brand new Spyro game, I'd 100% love for the new team to take inspiration from this game's aesthetic and animation style specifically. The cartoony and expressive nature of the environments and the character models is really emphasized by the music. But much like My Father's Return, Spyro 4 is wishful thinking. The rest of the cast is pretty tame in comparison. The only one that's a super drastic change, of course, is Moneybags. And yeah, I still love it. It's funny, it's animated, it's distinct. I love this guy. I fuck with this guy. It's also nice to see that he's not just a paywall for new portals like he was in the old games. In fact, he's more of an item shop for Spyro. Spyro can equip different breaths in this game, and those breaths may have alternate attacks, like fireballs, for example. They're not super good, like, at all, but it's there. I like that Moneybags became more helpful, so much so that he actually has virtual shops throughout the game, so you don't have to backtrack so much to get to him. And it's not just Moneybags that had a helpful change. Literally every character has been enhanced in some way. Like Sparks, for example. You can buy lockpicks from Moneybags' shop, and then Sparks can open up locked chests or help you open blocked pathways. Why he can't just do that without having to buy a lockpick is beyond me, but hey, it's the thought that counts. Hunter is an actual playable character with his own levels, and it's really cool to see him more capable with his bow and arrow and all of his other abilities. Sergeant Bird controls a lot better than he did in Spyro 3. He's actually the one who tackles the flight levels now, which makes sense, but dear God, like, the level designs themselves are just not great. To be fair, I can see how they have more open-ended level layouts like Spyro 1 did for the flight levels, but I find myself getting lost more in these levels. There isn't really a super clear direction or indicator of where to go. I mean, hell, Spyro straight up had arrows to make sure that you were following the correct path. Spyro 2 was a bit more convoluted at times and seemed like a big clusterfuck. Spyro 3 kinda made it a lot more straightforward and easy to follow. A Hero's Tale seems to have a mixture of Spyro 1 and 2, making it more open as well as convoluted at times. So, not a huge fan. Sparks gets his usual bullet hell levels, but this time it's kind of an auto-scroller, and I appreciate the different approach, but the original style was just a lot more exciting. This is kind of bland and gets old after a while. It's cute. Again, I love that they tried something new, and I appreciate the presentation. It's super fun, but gameplay-wise, I'm just not a huge fan. The new kid on the block is Blink, and he's fine. Like, the internet, being the internet, has hyped Blink up to be the worst. Like, he ruined the game. He's the reason people hate it. Oh, he's such a mistake. His gameplay is so stupid and boring. Oh, I hate him. Oh, Nah, he's chill. He's just a slow combat character whose levels go on for a little too long. Is he the worst part of the game? Probably. Yeah. I'd say Sparks' levels are kind of up there. If they were a little longer, then he would be the worst part of the game. But keep in mind, it's not horrible. Being the worst part of a game that's already good means it's okay. So just do better. Now, the biggest change in gameplay, in my opinion, is going to be Spyro. If you're coming straight from any of the classic games, you're gonna need a minute or two. It's a good thing that the first part of the game is this nice little playground for you to get used to the controls. It's just weird at first. Like, Flame and Charge are swapped for whatever reason, but other than that, Spyro's base controls are a lot tighter. Charging, for example, feels super snappy and quick. Maneuvering through the game normally feels very nice. I really like how Spyro handles. The other characters are a bit heavier, but that helps them stand out from each other. There are some core things that are different, like not being able to charge jump. Now, you can charge, and you can jump, and you can charge after a jump, but you can't charge jump. And that's really fighting my instincts as a Spyro player. But the more I played, the more I was able to adapt. And pretty quickly, I might add. If you're coming with little to no experience with any other Spyro game, then you're going to be perfectly fine. If you're a die-hard classic Spyro fan and this is your first time playing, it's going to take a minute or two, but that's fine. I started to really like it. Everything just blends together and feels really smooth. It's kind of funny because, like, a lot of these animations were adapted for the Legend of Spyro series. Obviously adjusted to be less cartoony, but it's interesting to see how A Hero's Tale kind of kickstarted the production of the Legend of Spyro games, especially because those were a completely different developer. I'd say the weakest part of this game is probably the bosses, especially the main antagonist. Now, I know Spyro doesn't have, a notoriety for having the best villains. Nasty Nork was memorable, if not purely for the goofy name. Ripto sounded cool. The Sorceress was kind of lame. But, like, later in the series, Malefor? Dude, that's so badass. I love that. That's such a cool name. What about this game? Red. He's a big fucking red dragon. Yeah. I get it. It's supposed to be for kids. Spyro was always for kids. Like, come on, man. He's a big red dragon named Red. That's all. Like, genuinely, I don't remember if there was ever a reason why he was evil besides being red and evil. And then he gets put in a jar. Like, I don't like it either. The rest of the bosses in the game aren't great either. Like, design-wise, they're fine at best. The fights are just super formulaic and bland. It's also, like, really weird, because, like, every time you beat them, they exclaim, "Ah, damn, you beat me, ah!" And then they fucking explode. Listen, I get it. It's for kids. It's a kids game. But I'm a YouTuber, so I'm gonna complain because that's what I do as a YouTuber. Obviously, this game has other shortcomings, like the level design can sometimes get really confusing and drag out for a while, but overall, the package, I'd argue, is great. I love how this game looks and feels. With it being somewhat shrouded in obscurity, it's gotten some more appreciation over the years, which is fully deserved. And that's not the only thing that's been shrouded in obscurity and deserves more appreciation. Let me introduce you to our sponsor! Yeah, it's been a minute since we had one of those. The kids are really hungry. But yeah, anyways, it seems like more people are finding this game and experiencing it for the first time, which is great. It's a huge shame that this game didn't sell as well as it should have. Its fate was already kind of sealed by ETD. Enter the Dragonfly sold as much as it did because it was riding the tail of the original games that came immediately before it. It sold better, but left a bigger stain on the series. But in the grand scheme of things, Spyro wasn't a series known for making a lot of money. that was mainly Crash's expectation. After the PS1 games, the Spyro series saw a significant decline in financial success. For A Hero's Tale, there aren't really any sales numbers at all. That means that the game fell short of the publisher's expectations, and they don't want to look bad. If we rewind a bit, Sony and Universal were very vocal about how well Spyro was doing on the PS1. So to go from that to this is kind of concerning. Let's talk numbers real fast. From 1998 to the beginning of 2001, Spyro 1 through 3 sold close to 7 million units. I'm rounding up to 7 so it's easier to digest. 7 million is an insane number, especially for a brand new IP in that era of gaming. Now what's really weird is that the total sales for the series is next to impossible to find, which is odd. Post 7 million, we don't really know how well Spyro did afterwards. There's bits and pieces scattered around the archives of the internet, so after totaling everything that I could find, I can report that a very rough estimate, at most, for Spyro's total sales numbers are roughly 30 million units. That's all the games up to now. Recently, it was reported from Activision that the Spyro Reignited trilogy reached 10 million units sold. So since Reignited is a remake of the first 3 games, let's combine the sales numbers of Reignited and the original 3. Doing so shows us that overall, the original trilogy now makes up almost 57% of the total sales of the entire Spyro series. Reaching 10 million alone is a massive milestone and proves that Spyro is on the up and up. The series is profitable now, right? No. See, Reignited reached 10 million sold after its initial release, which at this point is about 5 years ago. Spyro's Big Brother series Crash also reached 10 million units sold for the Insane trilogy in a year and a half. In fact, by the time Reignited reached that 10 million threshold, Insane doubled it. Even during the dark era of these two series, Crash always made money. So, taking 5 years to reach the milestone that Crash did in a year and a half is not a good look when comparing the two. And you can't not compare them. All in all, it makes sense why A Hero's Tale wasn't a huge financial success. But that doesn't mean it was a huge financial flop or anything like that. In NTSC regions, A Hero's Tale got the Player's Choice label for GameCube. The threshold for getting that is to sell at least 250,000 units. Over in Europe, the PS2 version got the Platinum Hits re-release, which means it sold roughly 400,000 units in its first 6 months. On the other end of the consoles, but still in Europe, the Xbox version received the Xbox Classics label. From what I saw, there's no publicly recorded number of units needed to reach that level, but if it's anything like the others, we can lowball 250,000 again. So, it looks like the game did generally better over in European countries, which makes a lot of sense considering at the time, a lot of the gaming industry in America, at least, was changing drastically to a darker tone. It just sucks because this game came out on 3 different consoles, so more options for people to purchase this game, and it still couldn't reach the sales of one of the original games that was released on one console. A Hero's Tale had to pick up the slack and put faith back into the series. I genuinely feel that if more people paid attention back then, it 100% would have. It's extremely impressive what they were able to do with such a low budget. It's a buried gem that deserves to stand on its own. I would highly recommend picking this game up and playing it for the first time. If you have played this game, go ahead and let me know in the comments below what you thought of A Hero's Tale. I'm really interested in what you guys have to say. And hey, while you're headed down there, make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Be sure to follow me on your social media of choice. I'm sure I'll say something there at some point. Be sure to follow me on your social media of choice. I'm pretty sure I'll say something at some point. Big thank you to Gamer Gummy Guy for sponsoring this video, and always remember to check out shemp.store for apparel that will give you the big sex. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.